Alright. Okay, so yesterday I posted on a homesteading group about using goats to clear up the underbrush in there because we're going to log these trees, and everybody ignored my question and lost their mind. Don't cut down the trees! So let's talk about this. We just bought this property. It's about 30 acres, just a little less. And let me show you that this is the only usable pasture we have out of the whole stinking place. And this makes up about 3 acres. Oh, that's plenty if you work it right. No, it's fucking not. Okay, so here's a swing set. There's a burn pit. Some apple trees that need to go. Originally, I wanted to put a fence straight up from that corner. Bring it straight along here. Right back to that line of grass right there. And then cut it straight over and leave this space as our backyard space. In-ground trampoline. This swing set kind of sort of ruins that. I don't know if it's concreted in. I kind of want to move it, but I don't know if that's even possible. I thought this swing set was more over. So, let's go back. These are apple trees. They have to go. Yes, I do want a couple cows, a couple pigs, yada yada yada. But really, I want a whole lot of her. These two are my 2 current horses, but I want a lot more. The little one's Eclipse, the big one is Elsa. Elsa is a Shire. They are a critically endangered breed and are more rare than a giant panda. And I want to breed them. I flipping love that breed. So, 3 acres will not be enough. Now, Elsa and Eclipse got here on Monday. This is where we had them the first day. You can clearly see the line of where the pen was. This right there is where they congregated. Horses are kind of cool in that they don't like to poop where they stay or poop where they eat. So you'll see in all of these that they have poop back there, but they hung out up here like they are currently doing. Everybody keeps saying rotate, rotational, and then you'll be fine. Not if I'm going to have 10 Elsas. So this was 1 day of damage. It's finally just today starting to look like it's about to recover. And then all of these have been 2 days that they've stayed on these spots. So this is the spot over here that I moved them from yesterday morning. And you can see how devastating they can be in just 2 days. 2 days. Look at what they've had done to this. Over there, that's just 1 day. I only moved them yesterday morning, and it's only like 11 o'clock today. I'll move them tomorrow morning. We are making something that's easier, because these are, if you're going to do a temporary fence and you need it tall, I highly recommend these. These are fiberglass rods. 3/8 inch, I believe is what I got. I don't want to touch it. These rods are 6 feet long. I usually, when I originally got them, I marked them to go a foot into the ground. So I just took them all up and lined them all up and measured 12 inches. And the bottom one was 18 inches, and then it was either 18 inches between each wire. And that's actually held these guys pretty well, as long as it was properly electrified. These rods are only $1.80 off of kencove.com, KENCOVE.com. The insulators are like $3 for a pack of 25. You can just put them on, twist them on. They can be a pain in the ass. You know, and then that's 5-mile electric fans. I don't even have the grounding rod all the way in. For this small of a pen, it shocks the hell out of you. So, works perfectly fine to hold them in. don't worry about all the flies. We have fly spray coming. But we're making something with 5-gallon buckets where we took a 10-foot PVC pipe, cut it in half, drilled holes in it, and we're concreting them into 5-gallon buckets. And then we're gonna string wire between them and then move that around, which should be way easier. This stuff is good for like dividing a pasture if you're gonna rotate your pastures. But having to like pull them in and take them out and scoot them around and trying to set them up because you have to temporarily push them back into the ground and just pull them back out as you move the pen around, it's kind of a pain in the butt. But you know, do with what you got. But so that leaves, you know, just this little bit of area, and then like down the hill just to right over there. And if it was just these 2 horses, I could probably make do with 3 acres for quite a while. But we are planning to get more horses, at least one for everybody to ride. But I'm gonna get a few more Shires and breed them. I freaking love them. Also, they're just amazing. She's 5 years old. She'll be 6 next spring. And Eclipse is about the same age. So anyhow, let's walk back towards the beginning of my forested hill. Now what you may not notice, or may not know, is that all of these trees right here, well, almost all of them, they're all apple trees. Apple seeds eaten in large quantities will poison and kill a horse. So all of these apple trees have to go. They gotta go. There's a lot more up in there. On the back side, there is what looks like an old apple orchard. They've all gotta go. Maybe I'll keep a couple so I can use them for smoking some meat. Some apple wood bacon or something. But as you can see, you can't even get up there. Not in most of this. So I'm gonna pause this until I get to another spot to show you something. Okay, so I've hiked from down over there. The path only leads this far. That whole mountainside up there is still mine. But if you look really closely, you can see that this is all a cliff. And so a lot of these trees, especially up there, they'll stay because obviously I'm not going to go anywhere near a cliff with horses. And it'll be better if there's a buffer, a good bit of space between the edge of a fence and the edge of the cliff. So there'll be trees left over there. Let's kind of look over here a little bit. It looks more like, yeah, another cliff. A lot of that down there is actually mine. Kind of goes up and around. Can't get in over there because this is what everything looks like. Like I can't get in. The old owners, like you can tell, they had 4-wheelers and ATVs, but there's only one trail. I don't know what they used them for. They didn't have livestock or anything. Like, down over there is my property too. So, I mean, there's a good bit of trees that have to stay, but there's a good bit of trees that have to go because, let's face it, I bought this property for a reason. And it's not to sit on my back lawn and look up and say, wow, what a pretty mountain. Like, I bought acreage for a reason. And that was to have horses. A couple cows to feed my family and whatnot, you know. But horses were my main thing. And then everybody wants to sit here and say, oh, well, if you rotate the pastures, you should leave it as natural as possible. Well, guess what? You don't know my property, and you don't know my needs. I bought this property for a reason, not to sit here and look at this completely unmanaged forest. So I'm gonna pause this again, and I have to go down and all the way around to the other side to where there's a trail. Okay, so I'm at the trailhead. There's my horses, so I had to climb up this little area where some farmer somewhere has planted crops. Now, that's a black walnut tree. That has to go. And again, all of that back there, that's more apple trees. So this is the trailhead. Come up here. And already, what? Look at this. These are not fun. There's a drainage ditch from something long ago. But see how nice and clear it is? It took 3 days to make it look like this. Because A, the only thing I have money to buy right now is a machete. And B, there's no way, even if we had a tractor and crap, to really get it up here. Not with implements and stuff. This trail is not that wide. This is all stuff I cut down. And what you don't see, okay, I mean, some of these are really, really thick. And I know that doesn't look like much, but this thing is lined with thorns. And kind of like splinter into your finger. But, I mean, those two stalks right there, they're cut, they're dying. Look how thick those are. And what was happening is stuff well back in here, because there's not a lot of canopy cover right here, was growing way back from out there and growing to the middle of this path. And I mean, you couldn't walk up here because there was just thorn thickets hanging over from both sides, especially that side. Again, these are all apple trees. Apples are all over the ground. The ground, we don't have rocky soil here. This is actually excellent farming soil, but it makes it a bit slick because, I mean, once it gets wet, it's just soil. That can't really hold on to itself all that well. And then you throw these apples on top of that, and you're talking real slick. I have to wear my cowboy boots because they're still in the middle. More thorn thickets, some that I just didn't move off to the side, some that are growing in the middle. I think a lot of these were wild raspberries or blackberries. There is some wild cucumber vines back here as well. And I mean, let's see if I can show this. I got tore up while I was doing this, and splinters everywhere. And it took 3 days to get up and around this corner here because of the clear canopy here. Because once these things had a second to take off, they had some clear skies, oh man, they just exploded with growth. But all of that back in there, that is all thorn thickets. So let's go up here a bit. I mean, I had to chop down all of this. I tried originally to come up here on Elsa, because Elsa's trained to ride. She's an excellent trail horse, and usually she'll plow through just about anything. But we only got to right about there, and she completely rebucked and refused. Almost threw me, almost slid back down the damn hill because the thorns were so bad we couldn't get through. So I went and bought a machete and a hatchet, came up here and used good old-fashioned manpower to clear the way. Now originally I was cutting stuff back real far. See, like, look, it's growing up right here. This is thorns. And I was really cutting it back so that way I won't have to worry about the growth later on. But it really just became a bit too much. I'm not sure what these ones are, because these are a different type of thorny bush than what I was dealing with further down the hill. They're meaner, nastier. Like, ow! Look at these thorns. Here's some of the stuff I did cut, and it's already trying to eat my legs up. So, and the thorns were bad all the way up until there. So I'm gonna just go up and around the bend. So here, the canopy cover is getting a little bit thicker. The bushes are still pretty tall, but they're not growing so uncontrollably, and they're not reaching out over the path. So I didn't have to cut much to get up into here. But this is also about the place where they started to just grow up out of the middle here, because that's the only bit of canopy opening that they could find. So, excuse my panting. Up we go. Right up here is where the canopy cover is real thick, and these things are a bit more tame. So we'll just get up the hill here. Mind you, because of this, all of this acreage, you're talking 20 to 25 acres of my 30-acre property, completely unusable. So, but see how much smaller these are now? Okay, so look at how much less everything is. And this is what I'm talking about in my original question is, will goats come in and eat all this? Because you're like, oh, how pretty, it's so green, but almost all of this is thorn thickets. Not a whole lot of it is baby trees or anything. It's all thorn thickets. So my idea was to get some goats up here, feed them on it, get them to eat it down and keep it down, and then be able to turn around and sell them for, you know, a bit of a profit, because that's what a farm is for. See these trees? I mean, they're pretty nice trees. Really straight, really tall. They're not super thick, but they're pretty good. Most of them are pretty darn healthy too. But you know, I would have to keep some, like, I would have to keep some of those down there for hillside stabilization. Same as over there and over there, because the hill really starts to dip off over there. But up here, I don't need trees so much. It's more at the top of the hill, and it's just gently sloped. I don't need these trees back here to keep soil in its place. Grass would do just fine up here. I need trees down there, so those trees are staying, with the exception of the apple trees down at the bottom. But I need to clear out a lot of this up here so that I can have horses up here. And not only this, you got to think, this is my only path up and down this hill. There is no water up here. The only water is at the back of my house. Everybody says, oh, well, irrigate it. Oh, I guess irrigation is free. Having a well drilled is free. Y'all, we put every penny we had into buying this place. We don't have money to be sinking into things like irrigation and wells. Like, yes, I do want to do that, but quite frankly, it's not realistic in any sense of the word at this time. I would love to have a well drilled a little bit further up, and then irrigation downhill would be so easy. But at this time, that's not possible, so I need to find a way to cut in a smoother trail. I'm thinking on that side that we could, you know, maybe put something in the back of my truck to fill with water, maybe an IBC crate, or just one of those big water tubs that people who live in rural places use to fill up their water when they have a cistern. And then as long as the trail is not too steep, you know, we fill that up with water, hop in the truck and drive on up to the pasture and fill up water trough. But as it is, my truck, especially loaded down with a thing of water, is not going to get up that trail. It's not even wide enough. So all y'all people saying, don't cut down the trees, leave it as natural as possible. How about if you just cut a couple trails? What if you only clear out a couple trees? Like, I bought this property for a reason, and your bleeding heart has no place in it. So, besides, there is plenty of forest still around this area. And I'm not planning to cut down all the trees, but trees, especially like that one, need to go. And a lot of these trees up here need to go so that I can have pasture and room for horses and cows and pigs, goats, chickens. I want it all. And that is the reason we bought this. Like, if I'm not going to use the land for the reason I bought it for, then what's the point? Why did I waste my money? The trees don't need to be up here. This is pretty flat land. It only starts to slope down there. So I don't need trees up here to keep the land healthy. But there will still be plenty of trees on the hillside and along the cliff. Over that way is a ravine with a small creek in it with almost no moving water. But we'll have to keep the horses out of that area too, because it's just too steep, too slick. There's a lot of falling down trees over the ravine. So the horses will stay off of that. That's going to leave more than enough room still for a lot of this. There's still going to be a lot of natural habitat on my 30 acres for the wildlife. I just need to make some room for my animals. I'm not saying I'm going to cut down every single tree, because that would just cause, potential landslide issues. You're talking massive amounts of soil erosion. It's just not smart management. I care very deeply about caring for the land. I took college courses in sustainable agriculture. Believe it or not, I probably know more about this than you do off of a Google search. Soil sustainability, soil structure, soil stabilization, landscape stabilization, sustainable agriculture, sustainable grazing, rotational grazing, high intensity grazing. I know it all. And I know what I'm doing more than most homesteaders, because I have been to a lot of homesteader properties. I have seen a lot of homesteader properties, and they mismanage the land so terribly. They think they know what they're doing, but they don't notice that they have no soil cover, that they have massive amounts of soil erosion. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen here. But I know that as soon as I start cutting down these trees, all of this, all these thorn thickets, they are going to explode in growth. And they are going to grow 10 feet tall and become completely unmanageable. I do not have a tractor and a bush hog. I cannot afford a tractor and a bush hog. Not anytime soon. I can't really hire anybody to come in with a tractor and a bush hog because, again, no good way to get up this mountain. There is a road that lines part of our property, except that it swerves out. And there is another piece of small pasture between my property and the road. And I do not have a right-of-way. So let me go up here. out to the exit on the other side. The exit's just over here a little bit, but this is what used to be an apple orchard. These are all apple trees. That's an apple tree. It goes down over there. That's all apples. Apple trees kind of line this entire forest. So all of these have to go like, look at all those apples. And they're not even good apples. They're only like 2 inches wide. I'm assuming this orchard is probably 100 years or so old. It hasn't been managed. Like, that's the biggest apple I've seen. Look at it. I'm assuming that maybe like the original owner of this property 150 years or so ago probably planted that. And while I would like to have a couple apple trees, I have no use for an entire apple orchard. Not to mention one where I'd have to really carve up the trees just to rehab them. And again, that stuff is not healthy for my horses. So here's the exit. And this is this freaking thorns all over. This is my back pasture. It's about an acre or two. The video makes it look like a whole lot more than it is, but in case you haven't noticed, this is all weeds, which again means I need somebody to come and plow this under, plant seeds, fertilize, yada yada yada. Money, money, money. But again, they have no good way up here, not unless that property owner let them through. I don't know if you can tell, but all of these trees, they're all apple trees. There's a couple over there, a bunch more over there. Like, honestly, anywhere where there's a forest, it's lined by apple trees first. There is a neighbor right there. Not sure if you can see it, but I can see the top of their roof. They have cleared pasture over there. This is the top of the hill, where it's very level. But I'm thinking the best way that I'm gonna have to get up here is to clear a path on that side all the way down the hill. It's not so steep there. There's actually a road over there because it's not so incredibly steep. And I think we're gonna have to cut a path to get from my house, which is probably right about there, come up the hill and then come up the mountainside right there. I mean, I've walked almost every inch of this property. There are no other trails. You can walk that way. There is a trail to the creek over there. And I thought there was a trail going that way just on the other side of these trees, but it quickly turns into a game trail. The past owners had four-wheelers and UTVs, but I mean, this is the only path they could have taken them on, so I'm not sure what they were doing with them. I know they have like dice runs and stuff, but I don't think they were doing that. The kids were a bit young for that. So I guess all they were doing was riding up this trail, coming out here, doing a few donuts, and then going back down. But I have no way to get water up here. And even worse is that because of all this overgrowth and all these trees, I can't even actually put up a perimeter fencing around my own property. So, for all you bleeding hearts out there, I know what I'm doing. I know my property better than you. I know about rotational grazing. I know probably more about it than you do. I know how to actually calculate it. I know high intensity grazing, which is pretty much essentially what I'm doing right now with that little itty bitty round pen I have. Like, we don't even actually have up money to fence off that 3 acres because fencing is expensive, especially decent horse fencing. An electrifier is like $500 alone, and it's going to cost I mean, even if I use that really cheap stuff that I currently have my horses behind, that would be almost $3,000. Or I could pay $5,000 or $6,000 and put up an actual permanent nice fence. So that's what we're gonna do instead of wasting our money on the cheap crap that we're just gonna end up tearing out eventually anyways. But you know, we don't have $3,000, and we bought this place pretty much solely on my husband's credit, because my credit's crap because of a couple misplaced medical bills that screwed me over. That and a internet bill that I should not have, because I wasn't even in the state for when they were charging me when the overdraft happened. So we're working on my credit, and hopefully once my credit gets nice, I can actually fence off the 3 acres down there. I can get a small loan to do that. But that 3 acres just is not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough for, you know, 5 or 6 big draft horses. It's not going to be enough for all those horses plus some cows and some pigs and some other stuff. I need this space up here in order to be responsible with my landscape. I need this space because I'm not going to destroy, absolutely obliterate that 3 acres down there just because this is pretty. Don't get me wrong, I love this. This place up here is so serene and so pretty, other than the mosquitoes. And, you know, I'm not going to log it all at once. I'm going to clear out sections, and then as I grow into needing more space, you know, have more horses, then I will grow into this, and that will still allow these trees to get big and healthier. And for the most part, this is actually really healthy wood, with the exception of a couple cockeyed leaning ones like this one right over the trail. Ugh. You know, there are a couple in here that have some cankers, a couple that are diseased, but I mean, for the most part, this is probably one of the healthiest forests I've seen. And I don't plan to clear cut this either, because horses need shade, especially my big black fluffy one, who sweats so bad that when I was boarding her, people would constantly bring her inside in the summer because it's hot. And like, yeah, but at least outside there's, you know, a chance for a breeze, and there was shade outside. Don't bring her inside to the stagnant air. So I'm actually gonna leave a lot of these, but you can tell because the canopy cover is so dense up there, and these trees are having to fight for it. You notice that there is no branching. These things are stiff as a board. And if I had planted this kind of tree out in the middle of my pasture, there would be a lot of branching and there'd be a thick, full shade tree. But because these trees are having to compete with each other, all they've done is pretty much just grow